steep reddish rock, octagonal in form, whose 8 corners face the 8 winds, rises skywards in the middle of a 6-mile-wide isthmus between the Gulf of Corinth and the Gulf of Athens. On this is situated a castle without equal. Evliya Çelebi, 17th century Turkish traveler. Today, follow me on an exciting journey to my favorite castle. Oh, who did not storm these walls? Ancient Greeks, Romans, Crusaders, Venetians, Ottomans. How many feet ran up the steep hill to conquer it? How many arrows and cannons shattered against these walls? Acrocorinth is a fortified citadel that sits 575 meters high, overlooking the verdant Peloponnesian plains and the blue waters of the Gulf of Corinth. At its foothill, the ancient Corinth was founded around 10th century BC. For millennia, Acrocorinth guarded the Corinth's prosperity and secured the borders of the Peloponnese Peninsula. It witnessed the destruction, rebirth, and a final abandonment of this important Greek city. It has been told that the citizens of the ancient Corinth watched the games in the nearby Nemea from the top of the hill. Most likely, Apostle Paul, during his nearly 2-year stay in Corinth, climbed these slopes. The environs of the ancient Corinth are steeped in legends. The ancient city and its imposing citadel was setting of a numerous myth. Long ago, Helios, the god of the sun, and Poseidon, the god of the sea, had a dispute over the possession of Corinth. Gods asked Briareus, a hecatonchire, a giant with 50 heads and 100 arms, to mediate the dispute. Wise giant decided that the Corinthian isthmus and the waters surrounding it should belong to Poseidon, while the Acrocorinth should be within the realm of Helios, the sun. So Helios later bestowed Corinth to his son Aedes, and gave the hill with the castle to Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty. Following the adventures in search of the Golden Fleece, Jason and his mistress, Colchian sorceress Medea, settled in Corinth and had the sanctuary of Aphrodite built at the top of the hill. The grandiose temple, said to have housed imposing statue of the beautiful goddess herself, as well as smaller dedications to Helios and Eros. Sisyphus, the mythological founder of Corinth, prior to his endless toil, became privy to Zeus's kidnapping of nymph Aegina, the daughter of river god Asopus. Sisyphus revealed what had transpired to Asopus, for which the river god broke the spring at the top of the Acrocorinth, providing continuous water supply to the future citadel. For his loose lips, Sisyphus incurred the wrath of the Olympus, and was subsequently punished to push the boulder up the hill for eternity. Now, let's leave the myth behind and turn to history. During the Mycenaean period, roughly from 1700 to 1100 BC, smaller fortifications existed at the top of Acrocorinth. By 1000 BC, first the Phoenicians, and then by 900 BC, Greeks resettled the area. Corinth's location allowed for it to wield influence in the ancient Greek world. It stood at the narrow isthmus connecting Peloponnese to the mainland Greece. 19th century French novelist Gustave Flaubert noted during his Greek travels, quote, "The road from Megara to Corinth is peculiar. It is so narrow that the horse barely navigates the precipice over the sea. The road winds. The scent of the sea from below strikes your nose. End quote. Corinth had access to two harbors in the Gulf of Corinth, which led to the Ionian Sea, and Saronic Gulf, which led to Aegean Sea. Strategically, Corinth was in the position to control the land and the sea trade routes. Local trades, as well as commerce, allowed the city to flourish. Athens and Argos, another influential Peloponnesian polis, became Corinth's adversaries, seeking to curb Corinth's economic growth. Corinth, on the other hand, found an ally in Sparta. The first major citadel on top of the Acrocorinth was constructed during the 30-year rule of Corinthian tyrant Periander, either in the late 7th or early 6th century BC. This was the zenith of Corinth's prosperity. The city was renowned for its grand temples and spacious agoras. In addition to the Temple of Aphrodite, another imposing temple, Sanctuary of Demeter and Kor, existed on the slopes of Acrocorinth since about 6th century BC. In the 4th century BC, a new power arose in ancient Greece, Macedonia. In 338 BC, Macedonian king Philip II, the father of Alexander the Great, captured Corinth. Macedonian troops utilized Acrocorinth citadel until the year 243 BC, when Athenian military commander Aratos of Sicyon, with the group of 400 soldiers, attacked Acrocorinth, chasing away Macedonian garrison. Following the death of Alexander the Great in the year 323 BC, Macedonian Empire was in constant decline, and by the mid-3rd century BC, local Peloponnesian leaders sought to rid the peninsula of Macedonian presence. The year 146 BC spelled the doom for Corinth. Due to the growing presence of the Roman Republic, multiple Peloponnesian cities formed Aethenian League, a confederacy of the Peloponnese and Attican Poli, aimed to resist Roman influence, with Corinth becoming its center. Roman retaliation followed. Romans quickly subdued Attica and marched up to the isthmus. Romans numbered about 30,000 versus about 15,000 Achaean defenders. Most of the Greek soldiers were made up of slaves, who were recently freed by the decree of Achaean strategos Dyaeus. At the front lines, Dyaeus set up defensive positions at Megara, while at the rear he began to purge any dissenting voices who advocated for peace with Rome. So, these measures were in vain. Unexperienced Greek soldiers, recent slaves, started to flee once the Romans attacked the isthmus. Dyaeus also fled the battlefield to the rear city of Megalopolis, where he killed his family and then himself to avoid the capture by the Romans. Corinth was outflanked and captured. Its surviving defenders and citizens awaited brutal fate. Men were slaughtered, women and children taken as slaves. Lucius Mummius, Roman commander, ordered Corinth razed to the ground. Greek historian Polybius described the destruction of Corinth, quote, "The soldiers cared nothing for the works of art and consecrated statues, pictures thrown on the ground, and soldiers playing dice on them. Among them, picture of Dionysius by Aristides, and the Hercules, tortured by the shirt of Deianeira." End quote. Fortification at Acrocorinth was also destroyed. For the next 100 years, only the treasure hunters and looters visited the ruins. In 44 BC, Julius Caesar decided to have Corinth rebuilt. So the citadel at the top of Acrocorinth was left in ruins. Romans did not want fortifications in the colonies to discourage any potential rebellions and upheavals. Following the division of the Roman Empire, Corinth found itself under the control of Constantinople. Acrocorinth's temples, rebuilt by the Romans, were once again looted and destroyed by the Christian zealots. Acrocorinth's citadel was finally rebuilt in the 6th century during the rule of Emperor Justinian the Great, who recognized the strategic defensive importance of the Peloponnese. At the end of the 10th century, Corinth survived two Bulgarian sieges. So, in 1147, it was captured by the Normans during the Byzantine-Norman War. Corinth then came to prominence in the early 13th century, following Crusader attack and occupation of Constantinople. The establishment of the puppet Latin Empire in place of Byzantium and the political instability that preceded the Fourth Crusade created a power vacuum. Many of the local Greek lords first rose up against the Byzantine emperor and then the invading Franks. Enter Leos Gurus, Archon, or the ruler of Naflium. Seizing on the instability within Peloponnese, Sgurus quickly captured nearby Argos and Corinth in 1203, proclaiming himself the ruler of northeastern Peloponnese. Byzantine troops moved against the rebel, though it proved futile. Sgurus took the initiative and attacked Athens, forcing its ruler and the nobility loyal to Constantinople seek shelter in Acropolis. Sgurus further took over Thebes and Larissa. So the Crusader takeover of Constantinople made two enemies, Sgurus and deposed Emperor Alexius III, forged an alliance. Alexius bestowed the title of despot upon Sgurus. Sgurus also married Emperor's daughter Eudokia. He didn't take kindly to the local insubordinate noble and began campaign against Sgurus. Local Attican elites readily accepted the Crusaders, viewing them as liberators and hoping to have their powers restored. Sgurus fled to Peloponnese, seeking shelter in Acrocorinth. For the next 4 years, Sgurus, with the remainder of his troops, successfully defended the mountain citadel. In 1207, Emperor Alexius, the queen, and the princess Eudokia fled Acrocorinth, forging separate peace with besieging Franks. In 1208, Leos Gurus, losing any hope of defeating the Franks, mounted his horse and rode off the high cliff at Acrocorinth. So, for the next 2 years, Sgurus' second in command, Theodore, continued Acrocorinth's defense before surrendering the citadel. Franks, recognizing Acrocorinth's potential and strategic location, poured resources to modernize the citadel. The keep tower at southwestern peak still stands high. The network of ramparts is dated to the second half of the 14th century, when Acrocorinth was owned by the noble Accioli family. For the next centuries, Acrocorinth changed rulers. In the early 14th century, Catalans briefly occupied Acrocorinth. Even so, Franks retook the castle, their presence in Peloponnese waned. At the end of the 14th century, Acrocorinth came under control of Theodorus I, the despot of Morea, a semi-independent state within Byzantine Empire. Theodorus poured resources at enhancing Acrocorinth as well as building the protective wall across isthmus. So these defensive structures fell under Ottoman onslaught. In 1458, Acrocorinth was put under a 3-month siege by the Ottomans. In August of that year, Ottoman cannons penetrated Acrocorinth's walls and citadel surrendered. A 17th century traveler noted the presence of Christian Greek settlement between the two outer rings of the citadel and an Ottoman Muslim settlement within the inner fortress, with 4 mosques, coffee shop, public buildings, and a tomb of certain Ghazi Ibrahim Baba. Fatih Mosque was initially a church that was believed to be built at the site of Temple of Aphrodite. Corinth withstood continuous Venetian assaults for the next few centuries, before briefly coming under their control in the late 17th century. About 1,000 of Venetian soldiers were stationed there for the next 30 years. Venetians conducted some enhancement works to the walls and defensive towers, though many contemporary observers noted the overall poor state of Acrocorinth's infrastructures and lack of cannons and artillery. In 1715, Ottomans retook the Acrocorinth after yet another brief siege. Acrocorinth saw the last military action in 1832, when the Greeks finally liberated the area from the Turks. By the end of the 1850, the site of ancient Corinth was abandoned in favor of the modern-day coastal Corinth. The first excavations of Acrocorinth took place in the 1920s. Acrocorinth is a massive site. In a way, it's 3 fortresses within one. It is an open-air museum, spanning from the dawn of Greek civilization. Its walls bear witness to bloodshed and warfare. Numerous armies and generals entered through its gates. It served as a sanctuary of the mythical heroes and the biblical figures. The place where deranged medieval rulers soared high on a Pegasus to meet Helios and romantically salute their defeat to the awe and confusion of the enemy troops. Acrocorinth, we shall meet again.